For 2.11, for your take 5, we have talked about so many monarchs, so many kings and queens. You hopefully have them all written down on your king sheet, but I just want you to ponder, who are your favorites, who are your least favorites, and why? What about these kings, what about these monarchs is appealing to you, or what aren't you liking about them, either in the style of their government, in their personality, in their personal life, any of that. So write those down. We've got... For 2.11, we are going back to England. If you remember last time we discussed England, it was with Charles II, our King of Bling. He has reached the problem of being a party boy. Yes, he has a lovely wife. He does not divorce her, but he has no legitimate heirs. He has 17 illegitimate children, but no legitimate children. So he's going to be faced with another succession crisis. Parliament is worried about this, and there are political parties that emerge in England's Parliament. The first party, as they're called, the Tories, and they support the idea of a direct blood relative. So you can remember the Tories want someone from the family tree. The Whigs, on the other hand, are more concerned that whoever becomes the next king or queen of England is a Protestant. So these two groups are going to sort of debate and figure out who should be next. They want to go to the family tree because that's usually what's preferred, but the Whigs are a little nervous because Charles II's brother, James, is a Catholic. But the Whigs allow this to happen. They agree to say, okay, James can become the next king of England, even though he's Catholic, because he only has two girls. His only daughters, his only children, are Protestant. James was married to an English woman. She was Protestant. She gave birth to two girls, Mary and Anne. The problem is now, once they decide to let James become king, James had remarried an Italian woman, which means she's Catholic, and that new wife gives birth to a son. So there's James. He has two older Protestant daughters, but now he has a new Catholic son. So even though he's been declared as the new king, Parliament once again panics. The Whigs had been okay with James becoming king because of his Protestant daughters. Now there's the potential for replaying all of these religious difficulties between a Catholic monarch and a Protestant people. So Parliament's going to have to figure out what are they going to do. Even though the Tories, even though they were supporting James becoming king because of his direct blood relation, they agree with the Whigs that it probably would not be best for the country if a Catholic becomes king once again. So again, they start looking for someone who is both related and Protestant. They're going to look to James's Protestant daughter, Mary, who was married to her cousin. So she's married to her brother's sister's son, William of Orange III. So the Parliament asks Mary and her husband, William, to become king and queen of England, to step in place of her father, to become the Protestant monarchs of England. So here they are. They are invited by Parliament to take over. And this is called the Glorious Revolution. They had amassed a navy. They were ready to fight if necessary once they got to England from the Netherlands. But James just runs away. James doesn't end up fighting. So the reason this is called the Glorious Revolution is because really there's no war fought. There's very little bloodshed and a peaceful transition of power. And you can totally see in that picture that they are closely related. So under the rule of William and Mary, there's a lot of wonderful things accomplished in England. First is a written Bill of Rights. Until this point, really the major political document for the citizens of England was the Magna Carta. At this point, it's about 450 years old. The Bill of Rights writes down things that the citizens of England will have. They will have free speech, unless they are speaking out against the king. that there will be no standing army during peacetime, that the parliament must approve new taxes, not just that the parliament will be a check and a balance system, but they must be active in the process. Another thing is that the monarch, from here on out, any monarch of England, when they take that oath of coronation, at that ceremony when they're made the king or queen, they must take an oath as well to maintain the Protestant religion. So they are now, William and Mary, are trying to prevent any further issues about having different religions in a position of leadership. Another thing that's important is the rule of law. Even the leaders, even the king and queen, must follow the laws. So they're saying, in order to maintain peace in this country, in order to maintain an effective system, everyone is answerable to the same laws. They also allow more religious tolerance. Again, just like we saw in the Netherlands, that by allowing, for the most part, more religious tolerance, they're hoping to make a more diverse, a stronger England, which hopefully will help their economy as well. And then another big thing is more power and more popularity of the House of Commons. This is one part of Parliament. The original part is the House of Lords, the people who have a hereditary title. They have land and lots of money. The House of Commons, they are voted in by their neighborhood. So these are really the representatives of the people. And the House of Commons is getting more and more involved in the day-to-day government business. All of this is what makes a constitutional monarchy. A constitution is any document that gives citizens rights and power. So we have all of these new legal documents giving the citizens rights and power, but all of it is led by a king or queen. We would have a constitutional democracy in America. It is all about representation and the people's votes. In England, still to this day, constitutional monarchy means these documents, these laws exist to protect the people, and then the main leader is the king or queen. So William and Mary, they're really close relatives. They never, they were really good friends, but really never enjoyed being husband and wife. So they don't have any children. Again, we have to figure out who's going to be related and Protestant. So now the crown is going to go to Mary's little sister, Anne. Anne, she doesn't do a whole lot. She does gain some new territory for England. But the main thing I want you to know about is the Act of Union. Until this point, the entire Stuart line, beginning with James I, they held the title King of Scotland and King of England. So king of two totally separate countries. Now, under the Act of Union, to streamline things, Act of Union combines England and Scotland into a single country. So now England and Scotland combine to make Great Britain. So now we can combine these two governments, for the most part. We are a single country. Because before this, you could technically have one king of England and one king of Scotland, which would cause perhaps a war of some sort. So in order to prevent any sort of chaos or division of power, uniting these two countries into one. Anne has the same problem that so many have had already. She is unable to have a legitimate heir. She was pregnant 17 times. She gave birth a number of times, but she also had a lot of miscarriages. She had many children who were didn't survive more than a few days. Her longest living son lived until he was 11 and then died. So she also never had an heir to the throne. Knowing this, Parliament starts planning early. Who will take over for Anne once she's gone? Again, they're going to look to the family tree. We want someone Protestant and related. And they're going to look to Sophie of Hanover. Now, if you go back to Charles I's sister, Elizabeth, had married the Elector of Hanover. This is one of those territories in the Holy Roman Empire. So this is Charles I's niece, Sophie. And this is all planned before Queen Anne ever dies. Unfortunately, Sophie dies first, so now the title is going to go to her son, George. So this is a new family in the English monarchy. This is now the Hanover family. George, he still maintained the title of Elector of Hanover, just like we saw the Elector of Prussia. That's that noble title of one of the territories in the Holy Roman Empire. He also now takes the title King of Great Britain. When he comes over to Great Britain for his coronation, and for most of his reign, he doesn't speak English very well. And he knows that the people are not going to like him for it. Because as we've seen, people do not like being ruled by someone who is different from themselves. Despite that, he does a lot of wonderful things to try and balance out that potential dislike. He grows the size of the British Empire beyond just Virginia and the eastern colonies. He wants more land inland. He wants more in the Caribbean, all around the world. George is going to get more territory for Britain. And part of this is because other countries were getting more territory as well. So everybody wants a piece of the pie to be as wealthy as possible. Also, because George knew that he could potentially not be all that liked, that people, the citizens of England, could find fault with him fairly easily, he wants to work very closely with Parliament to get a feel of what are the people saying, what do the people want. In particular, he's going to work more with the House of Commons. The House of Lords is a bit out of touch with the regular citizen. The House of Commons directly represents the citizens. So he begins working very closely, specifically with one guy named Robert Walpole. Robert Walpole becomes sort of the king's main advisor, or his prime minister. He is the leader of the House of Commons, so he's one of these people who is elected in his neighborhood, elected in his local community, and then goes to London. Robert Walpole is assisting the king in running England, and from this point out, the position of prime minister is always held. But Robert Walpole is really considered the first prime minister. Okay, that is it for 2.11.